Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.
Welcome to another conversation on manhood. I'm going to say it again. Yes. Another big one, another powerful one here on manhood. Today's topic is spirituality necessary as a man? I want you to hear that again. Is spirituality necessary as a man, to be a man, to become a man, to continue as a man? Is spirituality necessary? So to my right, Johanse IODK, behavior change consultant. To his right, Brandon Best, gospel artist, radio announcer, radio consultant, Sky Boss, so many other names. Really a pleasure to have him here on the set. And to his right, make sure the pot don't start to bubble, because we have Vibes God himself, Niall McNish. Brandon, you'll understand why and why that's so apt to that gentleman. So, is spirituality necessary to be a man? Is spirituality necessary as a man?
Can I come out the blocks one time and say,
Start it.
I'm happy that you said spirituality and not religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that a lot of the times we don't clarify the difference between the two.
Yeah.
How you mean we spent a whole show and clarify recently?
I want to know if
First of
he
all,
watching something else.
A lot of the times,
It wasn't
not
clarified
all,
for him,
not all of the time. A lot of the times we do not do it. And I just
Okay,
want to
alright.
reiterate to the people at home that there's religion and there's spirituality, and someone who may not be religious, do not frown or look down on them as such. I just wanted to be very
before
lucidly
clear,
with
but
that.
just for our loved brothers and sisters out there, season finale, Manhood, season 1, check it out. We spoke about spirituality. We'll make sure Niall gets the link to refresh himself. So we out the blocks, but we have a false start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
that
me.
kind of falls. You could give us a working definition for spirituality.
I won't say I give you a working definition, but I believe here's what I can do. I can just put it in as much layman terms as possible, right? I would feel as though if we look at spirituality, I think it'd be one's connection with a former higher power, the creator, their creator. For me, I'm a Christian, so I'm gonna stand on that particular basis. But true, the thing is, what is that man's relationship with whatever their creator is at that point in time that they consider spirituality? Do you believe that there's a world that exists outside of this one that dictates or even controls or influences to some degree the life that you experience? And also, do you submit to those rules, those constructs, those things?
Okay.
I think that I would kind of place as a
Brandon,
measure.
the absence of focus
Yeah.
and the absence of purpose, the absence of destination means you're all over the place. You have no direction. You don't know where you're going, whether you're coming or going. So are we saying that you must have something, someone, some being? Because even in the absence of that, if you're certain of an absence of that in itself is still some focus. It's still a belief. Your belief is that you don't believe. So I just want us to further clarify spirituality outside of religion and the various facets, assets, as we break it down granular into what spirituality is. And, if you don't mind, your further definition of what you understand as a man.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, let me just say, I wanna start with my stance on this generally. I believe that it's impossible for a man to truly be a man without spirituality. All right? Impossible. I feel as though my brothers may disagree at some point in time, but I don't see it as possible.
I'm there with you.
Yeah, I don't see it as possible because the truth is, I ultimately believe, some people say your belief is not knowledge, but I believe that one cannot be able to truly guide their life unless they truly understand the manufacture of that thing. It's like a car saying, like, I just want to know where to drive. You give a GPS, but still has no real control over all of its facets. You kind of need to know your maker. You really do. And you really don't understand life until you start to really understand your creator. And I think we are just blinded by the fact that we think that we are manly. You know, we think that we are so logical that we can make all these nice and wonderful decisions on our own, you know, and we feel good to know that we can but the reality is that we could be choosing wrong and have no idea. We could be deciding wrong and have no idea. We could be deciding out of will and purpose and have no idea. We're just making decisions. I think that from a minute or just a small level, one should at least start with the understanding that here's what, there's somebody bigger than me, somebody who has a better ability to make decisions more than me, and I need to start to tap in and connect with that if I really want to be good at this leadership thing. Because to me, it's also all about that too. I can't lead good if I can't follow well. And if I don't know who to follow, that's a big problem. So I want to start to follow somebody who I believe has real good leadership. Why not the creator of the universe? That's just...
You know, you mentioned that you have to, is about, my worry or concern is those ideas or ideologies can be taught to you, right? So in other words, I may not personally have a connection with my creator or my maker.
Yeah.
And I am now relying on that information of who my identity is supposed to be spiritually is being told to me by someone who may also not have an actual proper connection with their maker, right? So that's where I'm being very careful, right? No.
He being careful.
I'm being careful. Exactly.
You want the box?
No, because
Okay,
religion
you don't want the
and
box, sorry.
spirituality is a whole different. It's one thing for me to say
No, but
different
Niall,
things, but
we here to speak one as men. And you see, religion and spirituality is has so much dynamics in it, because we could get different definitions, because even the show that we had, it had so many different definitions to understand it. And then I think part of the conclusion was, as a man, you have to understand what it means for you. Because I can't really tell Brandon how to be spiritual or what his spiritual life should look like. And I can't tell you, and we could have discussions, we could give advice, but to actually direct somebody else's spiritual life, that's at least the conclusion we had last time, right? And me thinking about it now, I'm actually glad we're having this conversation, because I realize spirituality and that spiritual walk is something you can't predict. I can't say what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or anything. And for me, I understand is a relationship, and a relationship with something higher than myself, right? And I'm saying something because according to the Christians, it's something, according to Muslims, it's something, according to Hindus, it's something else. But for me, I would say I know, not necessarily believe, but I know that there's something higher than me, because I didn't create myself. So there's something that created me, whatever that is. And it's me every day having that honest, and I'm going to honest there, relationship with that person or that being, because religion for me is I have to get up 6 o'clock every morning and read the Bible, no matter what it is, how I feel, wherever it is. I would say that's religion. Yeah. But spirituality might be I wake up at that time and the spirit or the energy say I should go outside and walk. I should go outside and pray. Maybe I should stay home. Maybe I should call somebody and have a conversation. It's more of a relationship to me, and a flowing thing than a militant thing that I have to do.
Yeah, I feel it. I understand what Niall is saying, I understand the question you're asking as well. You say he's talking about as well in terms of, or if people, what you understand spirituality to be is what people told you, and you're leaning on knowledge that they themselves aren't too sure about. But here's what, the reality of life is that that's all that we do. You just brush your teeth. Yeah. Bro, somebody tell you to brush your teeth. Like, honestly, we were convinced that this was right. They say, okay, we could prove scientifically. From which books? Yeah, because somebody else had to get that information. There's enough information from people that teach us things that we absolutely believe. Spirituality is one of those things where it's one of the only things that when we come to it, it's like, yeah, but nah, somebody taught me, somebody teach you. Nah, but the truth is that everything we have to learn has been on acquired knowledge from somebody. And even we look at the animals, everything you realize, here's what, there has to be some form of design. I think the argument here isn't that there isn't a creator, but still, there is some type of design to get the knowledge to say, a lot of people agree, here's what, there's a creator. The knowledge for this now is how do we connect with that creator. The knowledge of this is how do we build relationship with that. And really, as a man now, how do we let that lead into our lives to make good decisions for what we do and how we raise our families and how we run our lives. If you catch what I'm saying.
Totally understand that. Now, you did say I was taught to brush my teeth, right? But these are things that are based in reality or based in things that can be measured and tested, and hence why the information will be passed on. But when you're talking about something as abstract as spirituality, where there's no measurement, this is now we going on the faith of others that came before us, which is understandable. But again, now it comes down to a trust, because I have to trust really and truly, which now comes back
But
down
that's
to
the very
faith.
definition of faith.
Well,
The very definition of that is, the trust, and that cannot be seen, but that yet you believe. So that in itself is faith.
So then what we're talking about then is the faith in my fellow man.
No, not necessarily.
Can you you're breathing now? Can you see it?
See
Can
the
you
air?
taste it?
No.
But you know it's there.
Yes.
So faith in we're going down a road of
There was
preaching,
faith.
and
But it's
so
all
on.
part- it's all part of it.
But just to say that, so they obviously the beliefs of faith, faith and anxiety can't live in the same space as faith. Fear and anxiety exist because of lack of faith, right? So you talk about things that you've learned, but because you've learned it doesn't mean that you adopt it. You just know that some things exist, and you inside, your soul, as we see with, be it movies like Avatar and things like that, there's a connection. People they still believe in something, that there's some way they're connected, right? And as a result of that connection, it doesn't mean that you may start off, you may be brought up in a Hindu household, or you may be brought up in a Catholic household and find yourself becoming a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Jew, or like there are various religions that you might speak to you and connect to you based on your experiences or societal influences. But it must come from somewhere, because even the persons who may say they don't believe, or the person that believe any leader, there must be a student and a master. You hear about Sifu, you hear words like young Padawan and Jedi, all of these books and fictions and things like that. There's always a master and a student. Yeah. So even for top leaders, right, they would have had someone that was their mentor. And therefore they take on board whatever that mentor knows. Remember, they know what they know, and they give that information, and that person then takes it, either drops it or takes it to another level. And for me, it would be the same thing with spirituality. So spirituality is, in essence, religion is religion, but religion is a form of spirituality. Okay. But I think that we all have spirituality in some form or fashion, because, as I said from the start, even believing or not believing is belief in that.
Yeah.
You're believing that doesn't exist, but you're still connected to something. Deep.
You might have to extrapolate on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So me not just so that I have it clarified, right? So me not believing in something, and that is not to say that that's
right.
my thoughts. Actually, I just speaking
of course.
on the side of the devil advocate.
Provocateur.
Me not believing in something is you saying I still have in my own version of spirituality.
Because you believe in that.
Yeah.
You believe that nothing exists.
Yeah. That's a belief.
So it's a belief.
So just believing in spirituality, I can't accept that. I can't.
We're not saying spirituality.
It.
I'm saying belief. I'm saying believing in nothing is a belief. It is a form of something and some connectivity. Whether you want to call it a religion, they might have a religion that's based on not believing in that. If you look, and I'm saying to you that nobody's saying that spirituality. Spirituality is still believing in some form of spirit.
Yeah.
That hence the word. Am I?
Well,
Yeah. By definition, I guess in a sense you're trying to break it down.
you spoke about faith, right? So let me go with faith.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think I could say this generally, everybody have faith in something.
Okay.
So I'm not speaking about a being or beings or anything like that. Everybody have faith in something. So if you want to start there, because you have faith that you could make a quality product. So you have faith, let's say you have faith in yourself, or you have faith in when you open your pipe, water will come out, right? Unless, all right. You have faith in something. So starting there, I think, and I could tell you even my path to spirituality was understanding what I have faith in. And why? Because if we go with evidence, it's very few things we know for sure. Because even Robert spoke about oxygen, but you don't know it's oxygen because you didn't test to see if it's really oxygen. So you don't really know that now. Okay. But so you don't know it, right? Because I mean, you give the difference between knowing and believing, right? You don't know it, but you believe it. And the fact that you believe it means you have faith in something. And if we're going as a man, I think every man should have faith in something. Even if you want to start with yourself. Let's say you don't believe in no God, right? But as a man, you should at least have faith in yourself. And that's the starting of it. And if we have faith, going by Robert's definition, then if you have faith, then you have a form of spirituality. So if you want to start with believing in yourself first, I believe that's a good way to start with your spirituality.
Yeah, I think we have faith for many things, and you had faith to sit down in this chair, bro. That's the truth. But it wasn't even just the fact that you sat on a chair, and you believed that it could hold up your weight. You believed in the fact that there was somebody knowledgeable enough to make the chair sturdy enough for you. So it wasn't just necessarily that you were trusting the chair. You were trusting that there was somebody else who knew what they were doing about the chair. Similarly, when you go in a car, we know that the car wouldn't break down because we believe that there was somebody who did it and did it expertly well. Also, if you fly a plane, the same thing. So we live this life and we actually believe even by just observing each other, because what makes humanity work so well, or just the universe, or things work that well, we observe creation and products and things, and we realize that behind it, there has to be somebody intellectual enough to ensure that it works well. And because I trust these things, we just struggle with the fact that, okay, who is that person, or if that person exists? But in our history of humanity, there's never been something that we have proven that came from nothing. Never. Everything was actually created. Everything that we know was created. Like everything that we know was created. We don't know nothing that just appeared. Right. Nothing
so Brandon,
at all.
We're talking about trust here and creation, and I trust in you. I don't trust these guys to look at the time and take us to a break, but so I have to create one.
Very good.
So we take a moment to take a break.
That's the
manhood.
That's the best you ever come with.
That's smooth.
You like it. Smooth like a pie, right? So we need to take a break, manhood. We're talking about spirituality and the spirituality. Do men need spirituality in their lives?
Hey guys, welcome back to Manhood. And we're talking about, is spirituality necessary for a man? We want to get back into that conversation and really dive deeper into, the impacts of spirituality on the man himself. So, yeah, guys, is it really necessary now for a man to have some real connection with spirituality, or is spiritual playing that type of big role in his life necessary?
So the question I'd like to add to that and ask my fellow brothers here, is the absence of spirituality part of the problem that we're facing right now in society by our young brothers?
Yes.
I would say yes to that. But I wonder, again, for me, what spirituality represents is really, and I try to break it down into logical terms, right? I know you mentioned, as logical as I could take it is, for me, religion is like guided meditation, right? Meditation is the highest form of prayer that a man could have for himself. In other words, you're clearing your mind, you're thinking about whatever your task is or whatever you have for yourself. Just, I am meditating. A lot of people don't even know how to do that, right? It takes skill to meditate, even for like minutes, right? So when I apply that outwardly into the religious space, I see spirituality now as when it's a group of people and we are all, I might need help being guided to meditate. So a group of us all on the same wavelength, talking to the same, our creator. To me now that I would say the skill there is I'm able to center myself and I'm able to formulate the thoughts that's necessary for prayer to actually happen. I can't be praying, and I'm sure everyone does this, and I'm sure the people at home, you start praying in your mind, and then a thought pop in, some random thought, and it's had to start over the whole prayer. I don't know if anybody ever did that, right?
Happens, yeah.
It's because I did not have the skill at a particular moment to be able to see my way all the entire way through that process. Now, the reason why I gave all of that is to say, is that men, I find, don't have that quiet of mind when necessary to be able to guide themselves through any situation. Hence, that's what spirituality means to me.
If I would, could I add? I want to just add.
Of course.
Because you see, I really appreciate what you're saying, but I want to not necessarily fully disagree, but I want to be able to put a slant on that.
Sure.
Because see, meditation in oneself and spending quiet time with oneself, and you don't know what you're doing or where you're going is a dangerous thing.
Okay.
Because the truth is that I could find anything to do as a man has a lot of ambition. And we can find many plans in a quiet time. Matter of fact, we could plan to take over the world in quiet time. But what the true essence of spirituality is that spirituality should give somebody not just simply a moral code, but it should stretch them. It should put you in a position that is uncomfortable, that while you meditate or you pray, it makes you challenge your own being. That's the whole point. The point is, I shouldn't want to do every single thing that I am ambitious to do, because everything that I'm ambitious to do could actually be dangerous to me and even the public, which I believe actually happens to our young men right now, is that they're drawn by their ambitions for money, for sex or whatever, and they are going to run on that. But what is the spiritual guide that is actually stretching you, that's telling you that in that quiet time, do not act out on the ambition that you have in that moment. It's not about you centering yourself. It's about you actually being pulled towards a higher call. And that is actually, I think, what helps the man become much more centered, because now he's being stressed internally to do something that he feels as though, okay, I want to not just simply be on my ambitions, on my all of my desires, but I'm going to pull back. I'm going to have to use my aggression positively. Who's going to channel or guide that for me? You know, how I'm going to get that? It can't just be me internally doing that subjectively, because then I make all the rules. I make all the rules. I guide myself. I guide the whole process. So then, yeah, it's okay for me to get a gun. And because I'm meditating and I looking at Robert, I look at my brother, I looking at Johan say, I looking at Nala, and I'm saying to myself, the fellas, I'm taking too long to make money. So I take my quiet time and I devise a plan. I say, boy, it's fast. If I take a gun, go and rob somebody, do this, because nothing in that quiet time is stretching me against my own ambition. And I think that is the key factor of spirituality, is that it must provide, men need to be challenged morally. And when you do that, it helps their ambitions to be conflicted, because we need to be conflicted. Without it, it's going to be
That's very
chaos.
interesting.
You
That's very interesting.
mentioned men need to be challenged morally, but your moral compass is based on your environment and your societal influences in your community. And we actually spoke about that on an episode with Lyndon Balkaran.
Yeah.
You know, and he spoke a lot about the community and the environment that you're raised in. And so that morality needs to start from there.
Yeah.
So if you're in that environment, then to you what is right and wrong is subjective to being in another environment.
It could be subjective. Only if you're leaving it up to the community alone. If you're leaving
the
it to
community is
learning.
what leads you to pray, because you know, someone's not gonna grow up and just decide, oh, let me pray to whoever your creator is, because you don't know. If you grow up in the absence of Christianity, right, or Hinduism, or you know, or Islam, would you know how to pray or who to pray to, or what that information is in terms of the literature?
What we're talking about is I could find my own version of a higher calling, a higher creator.
And to do that, you must start off with some form of mentorship. There's someone that leads you to that in the first place, and then you decide after that whether that's for you or not for you. Hence, people change religions all the time, or seek higher forms of spirituality, or there's a crossover. Because, for example, you know, I was raised as Catholic. You know, I see myself more as Christian or more open Bible. But at the same time, I even go further and I delve into a lot of the understandings of Hinduism. You know, I understand, you know, Islam, and I take on board a lot of these other religions, and I embrace them, you know, and we all go to a higher power, to a creator, and that guides my life in many other ways. When we talk about meditation, you know, forms of yoga, you know, some of the most peaceful parts of my life in terms of quiet in my mind comes from that form of meditation. So again, you know, we then take away, you know, if you look at that, you're taking out of religion at that point, and it's forms of spirituality that then speak to me. But in a case of a gentleman growing up in an environment where there's an absence of that, or the spirituality there is of maybe a negative environment or something that leads them that within that belief. They also, people have different understandings within spirituality, and in that environment they may say, I don't like how you're looking at me, but
Good.
there are different forms of spirituality where they believe that they're doing the right thing or what is necessary.
Yeah.
So that could mean that, because sometimes, and this is my my belief, that spirituality most times is used in a positive connotation. So once you're a spiritual person, it's something positive. But if you grow up in a different environment, right, and have different forms of morality, and you follow in that morality, it could be a different form of spirituality. Let me give you an example, right?
So is it that he just said it as a behavior change consultant, and everybody sort of perking up at this point?
Maybe it came from
It's how profound I say. Anyway.
Yeah.
I had a contract killer as a client, right? And he said, he wanted to be reformed, etc. And he said when he killed someone, he used to pray with them after, not with them, pray for them after, right? And how he looked at it was his form of spirituality. Now, I mean, you could argue against it with every religious book. But we have even other books where it speak about death and killing people, etc. So then, and even if we look at the Bible says we fight against principality and powers, if we're using that. So that means the principality and powers, that means it have a negative form of spirituality and a positive form of spirituality. So if we're looking at that, and as a man, we have to find, if every man have to find his form of spirituality, and we use morality as part of it, and we all grew up in a different moral code, then spirituality really is a very fluid thing.
Okay.
Right? I go in there, and I'll go back to what I was saying before in terms of every man, I think, at a base should find something to believe in or have faith in, right? First, I can't tell the man what to have faith in, because if you I grew up in Belmont, right? Could have a different faith, and then have different parts of Belmont, have different morality codes, and then you grow up somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. But first, you at least need to have something and acknowledge it to guide you, right? And then, as Robert was saying, which I agree with, he started off Roman Catholic, but he was searching, right? And every man, I think, should be searching. What you're saying about challenge your morality. So you shouldn't just accept everything for what it is. You're
searching to be better.
Yes.
I want to be the best version of myself.
No, but isn't that something that all men should supposed to be thriving for?
But you have
better
to,
as brothers.
But you have to know, when you say you want to be a better version of yourself, you have to first understand. We must have a universal understanding of what that self-actualization is. Yeah. And if we all understand that self-actualization is in a positive manner, because you could want to be the best version of yourself, which means you're the number one contract killer. And in your environment, that is, being the best.
He's a better version of himself.
He's the better version of himself, and that's accepted as, hey, that's a done boy. That's the perfect person. I want to be like that, because they are, in whatever circumstance you are, there's always somebody looking at you who wants to be like you. And this is why especially those of you men who have children or uncles and so on, always know that children are looking on to you as a mentor, whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously. So that better version is what we ascribe to be, and it'd be nice to know what we all think is that best version.
No, just side note, we use the word unalive now. Just telling you all, right?
Let me
unalive in terms of what you're talking
about. We
about.
don't use the word kill or murder.
Softer
we use the word unalive because...
No, you use that word.
No, I'm telling you
Trauma.
that it's easier for the clipping of things that go out on social media. We use unalive, but we'll digress for now.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Let me be the church boy in the room now, please. And I want to piggyback on where Robert was going. I think that there's also an innate built-in morality. It's like a foundation of all humans that God puts in people.
We're not born evil.
So not necessarily but they're born evil, it's just that there's something that gives you some form of a slight nudge that something ain't right.
Yeah, right or wrong. Unless you're a sociopath.
Exactly, right? So like you will kind of, you tend to borrow from that morality while not holding on to its true values as yet, but you start to borrow it and you can understand, okay, if you see something happen to a child or something happen to a mother and it's in a particular light, you start to feel uncomfortable with it. When COVID happened, there were discomforts with people across the board, regardless of what spiritual background they were at. But I think what helps us as well is that when we, through spirituality, I mean, I'm not against religion. I'm not against. I know most people, they might fight religion. I'm a Christian. I'm cool with that, but I know that I like it because of the fact that they also set standards, right? So I usually tell people, listen, almost everybody wants somebody to probably operate like Jesus. They don't want nobody to steal from them, kill from, unalive people.
them, yeah.
All right. They don't want nobody to take their neighbor, wife, no, those type of things. These are all moral things that has to challenge us as a man. And there's a standard now that I have to go outside of my community to get. So I go into now that faith, that religion, whatever, through spirituality, but I go there and I look for the moral standard. I use that standard to pull me higher because just maybe in me, I don't know what that higher standard is, but I need to actually find something. So I think, for those who are Christians like me, or probably those who are not, there may be something that is pulling them now to actually challenge them to be a lot better. But there is a moral standard that is outside even of our community, so that a person could be existing in a community, see the moral code, and still say to themselves, I'm here, but what I want is to be better. What I want to do connected to my to pleasing God. I always want to do something that is a lot better and be better for myself, and I believe it'll be better for my community as well.
So nobody's inherently evil. We must believe that, and I do believe that, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. On this rock, we are all a sweet people. Just people have been dealt different hands in life, and as a result, they're behaving as a result of just trying to survive, and what they may know in their community as a result of that. As we speak about those types of behaviors, and we keep going on the road of spirituality and religion and so on. But I do take your point. I believe that we do know that right and wrong, and I'm conscious of the fact that we need to take a break. And
You're right about
Well done.
I'm right about that. But before we take a break, as you mentioned about, and Niall, you had mentioned it about when we pray, it's harder for people to focus during that state of prayer because we're easily distracted for whatever reason, and therefore all sorts of things come into that mind to allow it to quiet that mind. So with that being said, I know that even though we're talking about spirituality as it pertains to men, people are still going to be asking, the men out there in particular, I want to hear a bit more about this unalive. Even though it's a segue, because you have one gentleman who talks about another person who disagrees, and I want to, and for me, I'm in between asking the question, because is this one of those things that we talk about where terms like toxic femininity, toxic masculinity, mannerisms, and all of these phrases and things are being brought up, and the correct way, the PG way to say certain things is unalive now a new one?
I will be back after the break.
No, I want to talk about it before the break.
Nah, Robert, you have to have a standard.
I want to talk about it before the break.
So when you want to talk,
I want to talk about it before the break. So welcome back to Manhood. Before the break, I know I was forced to take a break, but know that Johansi and I are better as brothers, and we continue, and it's all tongue and cheek at the end of the day. But on a serious note, we're really talking about spirituality, and as it pertains to a man, spirituality within men, and spirituality maketh a man. And before we went to the break, Niall had brought up a point about a new word or a new phrase or terminology, unalive. And during the break, we had a discussion about it. And Niall, if you want to just briefly let our audience know what what that unalive is, and we could get into some of our thoughts on that, and how you may be asking, what does that have to do, and how does that relate to the conversation here today?
Okay. Well, just briefly. So there's a desensitization that has been happening, right? Especially for social media. I could now, or let's just go with a child. A child could now see many dead bodies or unalive bodies on social media. People getting killed, injured, maimed in all different sorts of ways, right? So much so that people would even get excited being able to share these type of videos with other people. That is not normal human behavior, right? So with this staring towards desensitization, how can we steer ourselves back and using words like unalive rather than murder and kill, especially for our babies, is a little bit easier, or a little bit, is a better way of getting us back there. But holistically is really for not being flagged on social media, right? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can now say terms like unalive, where now people won't be, you won't get demonetized, now your pages will get demonetized.
So what we spoke about is basically, it's that the desensitization is one thing, but it's a way to avoid being flagged, so you can continue to put these videos up, and people are now watching them and now feel better about themselves, so to speak, to be able to watch these videos, and instead of calling we're now looking at something and going, oh, they're just unalive. The head has been blown off, or they're riddled with ammo, and they're just unalive. So are we then moving away from, as we become more desensitized to that, and we're now putting flowers on to make it look or feel or be more palatable, and encourage more people somehow to watch it and get more likes and all the rest of this rubbish, are we then losing more and more as a result our spirituality, that compass that we spoke about, that right and wrong?
I actually think it's going towards spirituality, because personally, as you say, right, I prefer put flowers on. Just saying. I prefer, rather than, even my dog, this scratches back foot to put a little dust on it to make it look a little better. Like be real. So why not make anything look a little better? Just a little better. We all,
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
How about, Brandon, how about we just don't put it out at all? Yeah. Why are we putting it out there if we're using it as a shock campaign to say, hey, this is what's happening in our beautiful country, and we're now trying to find a way to stop the killings, stop the crime? Then that's different. We're sensitizing the public to know what we want to stop. But what we're doing instead is we are painting up, we are finding a way to put, but like you quite, I don't know how to speak to or further communicate with a person who say you want to put flowers on, because if you find that is something good, and you okay with that, about us putting it out there without looking at it as a means to stop it, but as a means to continue to watch it, well, what we do?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we should feel disgusted. We should feel the shock factor. The words should be there. We should be, because it has to affect our internal self. It has to. It should, so that we act accordingly. We should not feel comfortable just being able to say, okay, unalive is okay. I understand the trauma response. I understand not getting flagged on social media. But the reality is that somebody just died. Somebody was killed. Somebody was. There's a level to that is a great deal of importance, and should be of a great deal of importance to you, even in your own spirituality. Because the truth is that if I make it comfortable, I say to myself that, all right, everything is as comfortable, and let me go about my day and be normal. No, I can't be normal. Your spirituality should dictate. You should not be normal about this. You should feel, your moral compass should make you feel bad about
Uneasy.
it. Young men running in the area, and you see them running with guns. You know their mothers, you know their uncles, you know people in the family. You're seeing them. Don't say, yeah, that them, you tell them they're just playing with toys. They're playing with toys. It's guns. It's real guns that could kill people. There's a real problem, and we need to feel like there is a problem, or else we just leave it to run amok.
But the reality is we don't. So we here now. We here
Good. So
now.
we're here. That's
Right?
that's
And
a
we
good
need
thing.
change.
Yeah.
Right.
We are here now, but we don't want to continue being here. We
Okay.
don't want to make it worse. You know, Oprah Winfrey said, you know, if don't wait for another 20 years to decide what you wanted to do 20 years ago.
Correct.
You understand? If you realize something is here now and you don't want to, you have to start with your first step. So the way to change is first acknowledging that change needs to be had.
Correct. So, Niall said, put in the videos out and tell me if I heard it incorrectly. When you have the videos out, I say, of the killing, right? That could actually lead you to spirituality, because I agree with Robert, because we need to be sensitized. Even one of the previous episodes when we were talking about fighting in school, some people said, well, I think you said it had more fighting in school, and we disagreed. It had the same amount of fighting, but just now we could see it.
Right.
So the truth is being revealed. And this is something I hold to. This is part of my principle, is that the truth is never harsh. What is harsh is a lie. So if the truth is people dying, people getting killed, the moderate is what it is. That's the truth, you know. So saying whether you kill, you're unalive, your spirit going up in the air, however you want to describe it, it doesn't take away from the truth of it. And I think that's a way even for us to find our spirituality, because you see, like how, Niall, you have this stance now, well, I don't want to see it. If you didn't see it, you would not find yourself. If it wasn't out there, you would not have had the opportunity to find it. And sometimes people think the spirituality thing is roses and flowers and marshmallows and things. Spirituality sometimes is a gritty thing, because you have to go through the trial and say about being morally challenged. Jesus finding spirituality in the desert. Jonah finding spirituality in the whale. Right? Joseph finding spirituality when he brother tried to kill him. If you understand what I'm saying now, it's not a roses and a real nice thing. Spirituality is, and as a man, challenging the norms of society, challenging what you internally, because we do have it, and I agree with you, we internally know what is right. Or let's say it is feel funny, even though all the elders tell you do this. You always say, like, something about this never really sit well with me.
Correct.
Right? And it's having the courage to stand up for that, wherever that is. So even if you grow up in a community where they say killing is part of life, you know, you gotta kill these people and kill. Even in the act of doing it, and that's why I say sometimes you have to be down in the ditches to find the spirituality. Because that same person I said was a contract killer, that's how he found it. If he wasn't in it, he would not have found himself. Well, I can't say that, I don't know his life path, but that's how he found himself, being in the grit. So all of us, and especially as men, we shouldn't try to avoid, we shouldn't try to euphemize the reality of things. We have to go down in the dirt, and that's why I think God put us as man, right? Adam had to work before even Eve come. Adam had to go in the garden and work. You go in the grit, find yourself, and have the courage now for whatever you find to stand up on it.
You know, they say, a rose by any other name is still a rose. You know, and you hear these things, so unalive, dead, killed, all the same thing, and all we doing is buttering it up by doing that, and persons who want to put that out there and to get the likes and turn it into something different is finding a way to circumnavigate the systems and the protocols and the securities in place of people who are looking at the moral fiber of society and trying to put a stop to that. And you know, you always hear these things, follow your heart, trust your gut, trust your instinct. You know, those are the things that we're talking about, where we know what is right and what is wrong. And the more we become creative, the creativity to me is being used in the wrong way. Back in my day, you know, you'd look at a horror, you know, the Blair Witch Project and things like that, filmed on one camera and a camcorder, and you're going through, and you were scared based on that. Now, for someone who I thought I could never watch horrors, I can watch a horror movie now because it's done so creatively in terms of the cinematography and things like that. It's not even, for the most part, it's not even scary, because it's buttered up. It's done in a particular way that now still allows me now to consume something, still taking the negative message, but in a way that I'm now comfortable with. And that is what's happening. You are now taking, and not to harp on the word unalive, but you're taking a scenario that is in no way, shape, or form positive, and now it's okay. make it in my comfort zone. You put it in my comfort zone, so it's okay for me now to look at that and be part of that, or share that, or tell somebody else. Because we're not sharing it to somebody else to say, hey, fellas, we got to do something about this, you know. We're sharing it to say, hey, you see what happened there? What? Let's be honest.
Yeah. And you know what? I really appreciate what you're saying, because it goes deeper than just what we experience on the external, for our senses, our sensitization on the external of it. But it's also a deep dive in ourselves, as Johansi was saying. You know, we have to be willing to look at the ugly in us, you know. That spiritual journey has to be looking at the dirt here and saying, yo, this is ugly, and maybe I need to fix it. And I think it's easier for us as well. It's easy for us to examine, you know, all of the ills around us in our community. But when it has to really stand up and watch yourself, you have to look at yourself and say, yeah, here's what. I have to do a deep dive in digging up the dirt here. The spiritual journey is one of digging up that dirt internally too. Correct. Because it makes me better. So I have to go now and look at that dirt and realize I can't call it nice. I can't say, let me just put a rose in it, because we get accustomed to the like culture. Let's find a positive way to call my wrong desires good, so that I don't feel that is bad or anything about it. I just want to feel good about everything, because everybody is telling me, don't worry. Feel good, like everything, love everything. But no, I need to watch myself, watch my issues, watch internally and say, yo, this is ugly. I need to not cover it up. I need to work on this. I need to dig out this dirt. I need to fix it. That is my journey as spirituality as a man. And in that, I become better. And my leadership as a man helps my family, helps my community, because now we get to start doing that deep dive internally. Yeah.
And, you know, guys, you know, we only have a couple minutes here before we have to wrap. Before we get into our closing thoughts, you know, we spoke a lot based on the topic about spirituality in men, but let's take the men a step further and say spirituality in man. Yeah. Man being both male and female. Yeah. You know, because a lot of times your partner influences you, and you know, in that community, your mother is huge pillar influence for a man, and therefore the influence comes from there. So if we could talk, you know, a bit about the necessity for spirituality in man.
Yeah. I would say for both man and woman, having a moral code and being honest about what you're following. And here we're going with the honest, because I'm going back to go forward real quickly. Nali said spirituality is sometimes something we can't measure, right? And I would say, for me, how I found my spirituality is measuring. What I measured was, one, if I don't go to church Sunday, let me see what will happen, right? If I don't pray, let me see what will happen. If I do this, let me see what will happen. And then what it reached to was, you know, that voice, right? Everybody have the voice. Yeah. So you want to call it the Holy Spirit, you want to call it the universe, you want to call it Allah, Buddha, whatever you want to call it. I tested that voice. I said, I'm going to listen to that voice for 1 month. Wherever it tell me, if it roll on Frederick Street, I roll in on Frederick Street. Wherever it is, I say I'm going to follow that voice. And after the first week following that, my entire life changed for the better. It was like, you know, things were too good to be true. Mm-hmm. It was like, just like a movie. And I'm saying that because I tested it. Now, people listening and viewing, you all could have your own test, but testing it important, because that's how you know whether something true or not, whether you're believing in it. And we all have that voice, because when we don't follow the voice, you know what we do? We say, I had a mind, you know. Mm-hmm. Something tell me to X, Y, Z. So
I wish I'd follow my...
Where you want to call the gut, wherever you want to call it, right? And I'm saying it have a measure, because if the Creator, however we define it, imbue us with his spirit, and I'm saying that because I grew up reading the Bible, imbue us with his spirit. If you're in the universe, give you its essence, however you want to do. We have an internal moral clock. But the funny thing is, everybody's morals are not exactly the same.
Definitely.
So as a man, for me, you have to have the courage to be able to follow your morality. Because, and I believe, somebody tell me, so what, everybody could just do whatever they want. I say no. And I don't think it would lead to chaos, to be honest. But we follow as a man to find his spirituality, be honest about what you're feeling, right? And most times that first inclination is the right inclination. And we could test it and I challenge people to test it. Because even if you look in the Bible, God talk first and then the devil come after. No? Even if you look on TV when they have the two little people there, most times is the good person talk first, and then the bad person come after, because I believe that divine, I'm using that word loosely, divine inspiration is what we get first. And as men, we get it first, even if we go from a biblical perspective, man, God, wife, family. Man, God gave us directly, without a filter. But from the time we start to think and question and think, that's where we fall into difficulty. So as a man, going along the journey, being in the great and the dirt, is where you know yourself and you can be able to find your spirituality there. And I feel that's my closing too, so we could just go around.
I'm glad you got that feeling.
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Oh, well, my closing thoughts on the topic is I'm a firm believer of spirituality and even religion. I think that, but with a logical mind, right? As in go into it. And I love the fact that you said measurement, and I'm actually going to try that, right? Because for me now, logically speaking, I can be like, okay, how can I apply these things that I've had in my mind to my everyday life, right? So I really love that. So I feel that, religion is very important. Spirituality is very important. And a pairing between a man and woman need to have spirituality in it to exist, because, for me, a woman is the most important thing in a man's life, after his beliefs, right? And, that's it. I'll take it. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. I want to echo the same thing. Listen, find purpose by finding God, There's a lot that you don't know about the life that you live, and there's somebody who knows it. That's just the truth. And I believe that as a man, as you go through life and you keep on going through this spiritual journey of digging up the dirt and looking at, whatever the Creator is leading you to do, you're going to get guided in the right side, the right light, and I believe that you'll be a better contributor to the society that you live in. Try to be a leader and follow a leader, and I think that having a spiritual source, having a God that created you, be a leader, and you follow that, learn from a leader. Let that be mentorship on itself, and try to be a leader in the space, your community, your home, your relationships, your business. Let that be the guide to your life. And if you're a spiritual person or a spiritual leader, then you're definitely going to want to have spiritual company. So I pray that you find, if you're in your spouse, your relationships, your family, that the direction that everybody would be going is understanding that we need spirituality in our lives. At least that's my takeaway. That's my give to you guys where that's concerned.
You always know what's the right thing to do. It's in your gut, it's in your heart, it's your instinct. You know that moral compass. So when you know the right thing to do, then do the right thing. Johanse, Brandon, Nile, it's always a pleasure. God is the boss. Namaste. The divine in us. Recognize the divine in you.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.